More work. Serious talk today.
America.
Fuck yeah!
Americans like their guns.
Yes.
We're not going to talk about that today, though.
No, because we don't want to get people triggered.
Because that's a shitty play on words.
Oh, that was a good play on words.
Nailed it.
Whatever your views on guns, we don't care. You're entitled to your view, okay?
Yep, let's just get that out of the way first before we get into the discussion of video games, violent video games, and what they do to young children.
2319! We have a 2319!
One thing that is clear is that politicians are shit. And there's shit everywhere. They're not just shit in America. They're shit everywhere.
I thought we were just going to keep this calm and nice, but here we go now.
There we go, with the negativity towards politicians. So, the backstory to this, obviously, is that there was a shooting in Florida, mass shooting at a school, very sad event. And in those circumstances, you know, everyone looks for answers. And some people say it's because of the guns, some people say it's because he was an unsettled individual, you know, mental issues, whatever else. There's all sorts of explanations that people come up with.
Yep.
And in those circumstances, politicians always reach for, like, the easiest, stupidest thing to explain what's going on. And they're like, let me just tick a box here so I can move on to the next thing and not have to worry about it, not try and really solve the issue. And very often it comes back to video games.
Oh, yeah.
There's a rich history of politicians attacking video games.
If we go back to the 90s, for instance,
Man,
they were doing
they
that
loved
with
it.
Mortal Kombat, saying that it's the worst thing in the world and it was, you know, gonna upset our youth and all that kind of stuff.
When GTA came out?
Yep.
Oh my
The
god,
same
it was
thing.
like this gigantic controversy.
Yep.
It flares up every few years. Anytime a particularly violent game comes out, there's chatter about it, or anytime something particularly bad happens, they're like, yeah, absolutely, it's video games.
Yep.
It's definitely video games. Let's blame that.
They always knock on the door of video games. It's like the first stop.
But do you know it used to be comic books before this?
Really?
Yeah, back in like the 50s and 60s and
wow.
stuff, when they were talking about violence, they would actually blame comic books as the reason why people are violent.
Jesus.
I know, right? So it's not a new phenomenon.
Smithers! Oh my god.
This guy from Rhode Island, his name is Robert Nardilillo, and he's running for Senate there. I think he's already some kind of elected official. He is proposing a tax on violent video games. Anything rated M or above would have a 10% sales tax attached to it, and that tax would be directed towards mental health support in schools. Now, I really agree with the idea that we should absolutely have more funding for mental health in schools.
100%.
That's a great initiative. I feel like it's critical, especially in the modern era where, you know, cyberbullying and it's like everyone's connected to the internet.
Yep.
There's so much more shit going on in a young
Fast-paced
person's
world.
head.
Like, totally.
It's a big deal, and I fully support that. The idea, though, that a video game tax is the way to accomplish that, and his specific reference point here, by the way, is the shooting. And he specifically says that the only way to stop shootings like this in the future, the only way, is to have more mental health support, and the only way he can think of to pay that is by taxing violent video games.
Okay, well, my personal opinion, yes, I definitely agree. We need to make sure that mental health is a priority, especially in our youth, because that is when they're developing in so many ways, of course. But to try and pin it onto video games, I just think, like, if that's the road they want to go down, then what about movies? Or what about heavy metal music? Like
Rap music.
Rap music, you
That's
know?
right.
It just
Kanye.
it's a never-ending domino effect of just like trying to pin it on
Stupidity.
something. It's stupidity ultimately. I don't think it's really addressing the issue there, because if you're playing a video game or watching a gory film, there's no, like, I don't think that there's plenty of people. For instance, if we look at Japan, all right, if we were really to bring it up, I was watching something the other day, how many mass shootings do they have? And it's like the capital of video games in so many ways.
It is.
And like, they're playing sorts of gory games. Why aren't they having mass shootings?
They have lots of mass tentacle monster attacks,
Yes,
though.
and mass
they're
furries.
everywhere. It's just terrible. Those
Yes.
poor guys, I don't know how they get through each day.
That's true. But like, it really, you know, those are the comments that they need to hear, or the statistics and data that they need to look at from other countries, and see, well, you know what? The data does not suggest that.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because he says studies conclusively prove that violent video games make kids violent.
It's science.
Now, first of all, there's no single study in the entire world that has conclusively proven that. Everyone has a different view on this point, including scientists, including psychologists. And on balance, most people would say that there is enough imprecision with the way this matter is being talked about and the research methods that are being used that there's absolutely no way you can conclusively say that violent video games make someone more violent. I mean, the jury is absolutely out on this. There's no way you can say conclusively that it's a thing.
And look, if that's the case, then why hasn't when there started being when movies started emerging and all this kind of stuff, why wasn't there just a massive outbreak of violence? But it doesn't work that way. The brain, of course, enjoys to watch conflict, and enjoys to include itself in conflict in video games, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it wants to go out into the world then and replicate that.
Sam has played video games his entire life. He's the biggest pussy I've ever seen in my life. Seriously.
That's true. If someone wants to punch me, I'll be like, look.
Not the face, please!
Yeah, not the face!
Not the
Anything but the face!
Not the money
Jesus
maker.
Christ. I need it, okay?
It's obviously a very tenuous link. I don't think we need to explain to this audience. I'm sure everyone sitting
everyone
here
gets it.
is going to understand this. But the challenge is that politicians don't. I think it's important that you're vocal about this, because otherwise, politicians are just going to roll in there and going to be like, "Fuck loot boxes, man. We need to tax that gambling shit that's literally like ruining young people's lives. We need to tax their violent video games. So if they're playing like the new Street Fighter game, rated M, therefore they're paying more for it so that we can direct that money towards mental health."
I mean, and does that cost then get hit onto us? I mean, probably would. If they're having to pay
no,
it
would be state specific, I think.
Okay, fair enough. But I'm saying it would be probably passed on to the consumer. If you have an R-rated game, they might charge you an extra $8 or $9 or something because they have to now include that.
I think what's more likely would happen is that they would actually just make it so that the game is not M-rated, and they would take the blood out or something. They would try and get it down to a PG rating, which I don't want. I want my games to be M-rated if they're M-rated.
I want them to have sometimes it's fun to have a realistic approach to video games, or if it's like a cartoony blood and gore, it's fun too. There's also it's an expression of art, and sometimes art is gory, or it is expressing something that is quite bloody. Like
Mortal Kombat X-ray attacks.
Yes,
Come
you
on,
need
man.
that shit.
Don't take
that is
from me.
art. That is art right there.
It's all on discussion now. Look, I very much doubt this will actually get through. It just sounds like one of those stupid thought bubbles that emerges at times of crisis. That a guy gets up and makes a speech, he gets some headlines, then he gets bored of the idea and moves on to the next thing. I don't think anyone really thinks this is a viable idea, but it is out there. It is a conversation point. It is something that's going to directly affect the video game industry if it does pick up any steam. So
it's important for you guys to know what's going on, really.
Yeah, very much.
But I think you're right. In 6 months' time.
Less, like a month, 2 weeks.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
Who knows? But they're going to be like, you know what? What's the next issue now that we're kind of jumping all over? So, guys, stay tuned. But we could be wrong. Laymen is very. It's not. We're not usually wrong.
No, we've never been wrong.
We've never been wrong. Okay, so guys, you can trust us when we say that this isn't going to be a thing. Tomorrow, it's a thing.
Totally.